This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hey everybody, it's PJ. Welcome back to another episode of Done Lite podcast. I'm sitting here at the two-story white brick edifice, formerly known as something else. I can't even remember it right now. But I'm sitting here in the library studio, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different for the next few weeks. In the previous episodes, Travis and I had sat down and we discussed, let me put it this way. Travis wanted to pick who was his favorite cousin of his 6 cousins. But then he decided to shirk the responsibility and said, PJ, you know what? I want you to pick who the favorite cousin is, because ultimately, regardless of who I choose, that makes 5 other people mad. Of course, he could sit back and he has plausible deniability like, oh, well, it's all PJ. I love all you guys equally. You're all my favorites. Politics. But with me, I get at least 5 pieces of coal for Christmas. And that's just not fair. It's mean. And because that's so mean-spirited, I said, you know what? How about instead of me picking who your favorite cousin should be, which really doesn't even make any sense, what about the most interesting? So then we decided, here's what we're going to do. And I'm going to talk to each of the cousins and have little interviews with them. And then after that, I'll pick who I thought was the most interesting. So over the last several days, I've had currently 5 conversations of varied degree. Truthfully, they've all been interesting up to this far, but the question is, who's the most interesting? So for the next several weeks, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be talking to his cousins, Cheyenne, Earnie, Shane, Lisa, Sarah, and Darren, and talking to them and just kind of getting to know who they are. Who are they? Did you hear that moment of silence? That was my mind. The gears were turning very slowly, but turning nonetheless. Anyway, so the first interview is about to happen. So for no further ado, here is the first of 6, hopefully exciting and interesting interviews. Enjoy. I'm going to have you just give me a 60 to 90 second summary of who you are.
Okay. My name is Cheyenne Peck, and I am the youngest of the whole 3 cousins. I just had a birthday, so I'm 45. So that will tell you how old everyone else is.
Travis is super old now.
Uh-huh. And he's not even the oldest. So I am actually a real estate broker and owner of our Howard Hanna J.C. Meyer franchise. So that is the job that I have. I love it. I'm a top producing agent in our area.
Oh, wow.
In our county. And I have the best slogan ever. And everyone always comments about it. So again, my name is Cheyenne Peck, and my slogan is provides impeccable service to all of my clients. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, hey, you provide impeccable service." Yes, I do. And I'm on billboards and benches around. So my kids they're teenagers. They get very embarrassed because,
that's awesome.
Your mom's on the billboard. Your mom, the local kids think I'm famous. I'm also a mother of 3.
With you being a local celebrity, because let's be honest, that's what it is. I'm in a similar situation where, because I do so much media stuff, the local news. I've been in the newspaper. I was in the newspaper yesterday. From doing filmmaking and all that.
Uh-huh.
I think it's hilarious that your kids just don't take to that. So do you get questions like, oh, I bet your kids think it's so cool that everybody knows you or that you're on billboards. Do you get that?
Yeah, they do. And like I said, my kids, it in the beginning it was cool, but now I think it's the age they're at. It's not as cool anymore. I throw out free T-shirts at our every home football game. I have T-shirts made that, for the school, and then they have my info. And I'm like, hey, you guys want to throw these shirts out with me? No, so they don't think that that's cool, at all. But people will ask, and like I said, it was a cool thing. It's not so cool anymore with them.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump right into the questions because most of them are just really, some of them are stupid. Some of them are personal, but most of them are stupid. If you could share a meal with 4 individuals, all dead, who would they be?
4 individuals all dead. This can go 2 ways, because if I would want to do it family style, then I would definitely have a meal with Grandma Holtree, my Aunt Diana Scott, probably Grandpa Holtree. I was only 6 when he died, so I don't have as many memories of him as the rest of the cousins do. My other grandmother just passed, so who would be the other one?
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. You don't want to make your dead relatives upset.
Right, I know. That's it. Actually, it'd probably be a family or a family friend. She was a longtime mom to me. Her name was Sharon Van Dyke. She was one of my best friends when I was young's mother and my mom's best friend.
Right.
But if I went, that would be for family. If I went for professional, like anyone that you would want to have a conversation with, I think it would probably be Marilyn Monroe, Michael Jackson. Who was the guy on Three's Company that died? What was his
John
name?
Ritter?
John Ritter, yes.
A woman after my own heart. I love John Ritter.
Maybe Kobe Bryant.
I think those are all pretty good. I've never been a huge Marilyn Monroe fan, but I've never watched much of her stuff. So I can't say I'm not a fan. I just haven't watched enough of her stuff. But John Ritter is definitely the one that jumped out to me, because I grew up with him as well, and one of my favorite movies is called Stay Tuned.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh man, it's the devil, who's played by Jeffrey Jones, is going around selling these TV sets with these dishes, and what happens is when you go to use it, it sucks you into the TV, and then you have 24 hours. You jump from channel to channel, and you have to survive for 24 hours, or your soul goes to hell.
Ah, interesting.
And it is such a good movie. So if you ever, they just recently, well, not recently, but within the last few years, released it on Blu-ray. So if you get a chance to ever watch it, check it out.
Do you still watch Blu-rays?
Yeah. I'm a big physical media person. I've at one time I was like, I'm not going to. I had somewhere around like 7,000 DVDs probably.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And yes, I've kissed a girl.
But when you think of the money that you spent back then on all of those,
oh, it's ridiculous. What is something you used to be embarrassed to tell someone, but now you're fine with it?
I think it was I have Crohn's disease and lupus, so I would be embarrassed to tell people, that I had like an autoimmune disease. I guess I need to see how open we are. So because of that, I've had surgeries to remove part of my intestine and colon. So when I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I make it pretty known, because wherever I'm at, if I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go. There's no holding it, or there's no, so it's particularly, I would always be embarrassed showing houses. Like I could be out showing houses and it hits me where I'm like, whoa, I got to go to the bathroom. And, and so I have to almost let my clients know, like, so sorry, but if I don't go, I'm going to poop my pants, So,
right. You're like, look, I'm about to show you how good the pipes are in this house.
Exactly. I always will tell them, I'm going to make sure that the toilet works. But I always know to double check. And number 1, make sure the water is on, that it flushes. And number 2, that there's toilet paper there. But I would say that that's one of the most, like, I used to be embarrassed to tell people. And I, come to realize everybody poops. So it's just one of those things.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm very open and honest about it. And our family's open about that. I mean, if you want to start a fart conversation, Shane or me are the ones to talk to about
Despite
that.
the fact that everyone thinks farts are funny, and we all poop.
Farts are funny. I don't care who you are.
And it's like we all poop, but at the same time, there's just this stigma around it. So I get when you have something like that going on biologically or physiologically, why there would still be a stigma to that.
Well, that's where I am. I'm pretty much an open book. A lot of people
Same.
say, oh my God, you have no couth. And I'm just like, you know what? Honestly, I mean, I'm honest about things. And I really think that that's why too, that I can get so much business, because I don't try to be somebody else, and I'm very open and honest with people, and I'm just a regular person.
Okay. What would you do if you had access to a time machine?
I would go back to my childhood. I miss being a kid. I miss, looking at our kids and just children nowadays. They didn't get to experience what we did as children. And I mean, playing outside and, we would play in the woods all the time and make up, we had an imagination. We would make up games. We would climb trees. We would, I remember my best friend and I and one of the neighbor boys, we had a game where, we called it Kings and Queens. And, there's just so much from back then that I wish was instilled into our kids now. You went out in the mornings and you played all day long outside and you didn't come in till late. And we just talked about that with our kids, and I went swimming all the time. And I think when you were a kid, it felt like summer lasted forever. I mean, it just felt like it was, summer was there for a long time. I don't know, between ages 7 and 10.
Right. Back when summers were tolerable.
And you just, you just could make up things to do, and you just could just play outside and have a great time.
What's your biggest complaint about one of your other cousins? This one puts you on the spot.
Do I have to specify which cousin? Or?
You don't have to. Whatever you feel more comfortable with.
My biggest complaint, I think, is not seeing them enough, and them not coming to our family reunions. I think that's my biggest complaint. So when Grandma Holtree died, my husband and I bought her house, so we live in her home. Okay. So it's kind of after she passed away and we talked at her funeral, we said, okay, we're going to start doing a family reunion every year with all of the cousins. And we did for the first probably 4 or 5 years. We did it, and it was here, we played wiffle ball in the side yard like we used to growing up, and all the memories, up here. And it just started fizzling out. And I get why. I mean, everyone's kids started to get older, and they were, you did travel softball, or you did this, or you did that. So we kind of got out of that. Now, our dads, each of us, our dads are the 4 brothers, right? So they go on fishing trips every spring and every fall. It's been a long time since every cousin has been there. So I think that's my biggest complaint is they need to make time, because all of the uncles are not getting any younger.
Right.
And I wanted to spend the time together.
Well, what's great about that answer is even though it's not specific to me, because it is general, your other cousins are going to know exactly who you're talking about. They are. Because whichever one isn't showing up enough.
That's right.
Shame on you for not coming.
I can call them out, but I don't need to.
They'll know. If someone came into your house right now, would you be embarrassed or okay with them seeing your house?
I would be okay with it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not normally, though?
It just depends. So I guess I'm not really embarrassed of it, but my mom does come up and help clean for me. Is that embarrassing that I pay my mom to
that your mom? No.
Me?
Actually, what's funny is my girlfriend's mom cleans her house, and I'll go to her house afterwards because her house isn't like dirty or anything, but it gets cluttered.
That's the way my house gets.
Her. Her mom will come over, and I'll be over there, right after she did it. It's like a whole brand new house.
My mom does like the stuff I don't like to do. She helps with the laundry and folding it and putting it away and sweeping and dusting and stuff. But and I'm not lazy. I was sick for a while back last fall with my lupus, really sick, where I was like down. So she really kicked it in gear then, to help. I'm doing a lot better now, so that's good. That's good. But it is, it just depends on the day. I did the dishes this morning and picked up a little bit, so I'm okay if someone walks in. If they see my clutter, I'm not worried about it.
Right. You're only embarrassed if they go into your bathroom.
No, well, maybe.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes.
That was a low blow.
Right?
I had to take it.
Yeah, it would just don't lift the lid. Don't lift the lid. That's
hopefully you flush. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, yeah, we flush. The lid I sit on. Every once you got to think, if I don't have any intestines, how it comes, it's liquid. So sometimes there's splatter.
Oh, so have they removed your intestines?
Oh yeah, 8 inches of my intestine and 4 inches of my colon.
Yikes.
Yep.
It's it's too bad they don't have like some kind of bionic intestine, and then you could be
they use pig intestine now. Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they can put that in if you get too low. But
oh wow.
So my husband saw my intestines one time when I had a C-section with all 3 of my kids.
Right.
But when they did my C-section and he looked over the curtain, he said, "Oh my God, they had all your intestines laying on top of your belly."
I was going to say, it's like where they pull it out and kind of lay it
They pull
on
it all
your-
out to get,
Oh, yeah.
to get to that. And he's like, I about passed out.
Good times.
I'm like, well, don't look there.
Yeah.
Like, don't look when they're doing that.
I can imagine how polarizing that would be, because I can remember when, especially for Logan, I was up by my ex-wife's head at the time, and I'm thinking that's where I need to be. But then the doctor had me come down there to help, and I wasn't expecting that.
Ready to cut the cord.
I saw Logan come out, everything that comes with him, and it was nightmarish. Seeing it in a video in your Lamaze class does not do justice for when you see it in real life. All right, so last question I have for you. And this was kind of inspired by Travis when I was talking to him. What's your favorite memory about Grandma's house?
I live in it, so I have, all
Right.
the memories, which it looks different now because we added on and everything. But one of my favorite memories about Grandma's house, let me think here, was we always went to the basement to play. And it's interesting because you could only get to the basement. The basement steps were in the garage to go into the basement.
Right.
It was a full basement. In the basement, Sarah and I there was a phone down here by the wall, and we would write down boys' phone numbers and stuff on the block wall, like in the thing. So we had that. And then Sarah and I would go down to, there's a fireplace in the basement. And we would always, we got the bright idea to start building fires in it. Because Grandma was upstairs, we knew she was not coming to the basement.
Right.
So we would just build fires in this fireplace. And, we thought it was cool. And one day we built a fire and everything started filling up with smoke. We couldn't figure out why. And Uncle Larry, which that's Darren and Lisa's dad, came down in the basement, and we got in big trouble because they had closed the chimney cap and we didn't know that. So none of the smoke was escaping. So it filled the whole basement, and upstairs with smoke.
Yikes.
The other part is, we played wiffle ball in the yard all the time. And as Travis told you, with me being the most athletic, I stomped everybody in wiffle ball. You make sure you tell the boys that.
Oh, I will. I'm writing that down, right?
Uh-huh.
Are those phone numbers still down there, or they get painted
they are.
over?
They are.
Oh, they
I don't
are.
think we painted over one part.
Have you ever tried to call any of them?
No, I don't know if they'd even work anymore. I don't know.
Only one way to find out.
Yeah. What would I say? You want to sell your house?
Maybe.
That's what I'd say. Hey, do you want to sell your house?
You could call and say, you ever had your pipes tested?
Right.
All right. Well, unfortunately, our time is coming to a close, but
Travis was one that we didn't get to see as much growing up.
You didn't miss anything.
Right. What we did, it was, he was one that we were so excited to see. He'd come live with Grandma's in the summer. We live close to Grandma. So
Right.
He spent a lot of time with Shane and with my family. I know we drove him home to Florida one year with Grandma, my mom, and Shane and I and Travis. So we do have I have a lot of memories, from him. I'm not going to argue when he said I was most athletic. Shane's the only one that would argue with you about that, but that is true. There's no doubt. I got Shane beat too, but we have a lot of fun together. We we all love to play cards, and we're all competitive. Now, there's a lot of cheating stories, and I was never involved in the lies or the cheating because I was too young to know how to do any of that
Oh, of
stuff,
course.
man.
Of course.
And Travis did shoot me with a BB gun. There's no doubt he did.
Now, I'm sure you've heard the episode where he brought that up, and he claims that it was just like the CO2 or whatever. But you're saying there actually was a BB in it.
Well, it hurt like there was, and he got in trouble like there was. So I would have to say yes, there was a BB in it.
Well, I mean, if he got in trouble like there was a BB in it, then I would go with there was a BB in it. 'Cause
I agree.
If I'm going to
There
get the
was.
punishment, the crime is going to fit the punishment.
I hope Travis listens to this because there's one thing that I remember. Travis was very when he said he was going to go to law school, we knew that this was going to be perfect. He was going to be the best lawyer ever because
Right.
he was so good at storytelling. He was so good at keeping you entertained when he was talking. And he was a good fibber. I'm not going to not that lawyers lie. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you could believe whatever he said,
That's
because he was
funny.
just that's the way he talked. And a lot of the card games and different things like that we played, he was great at it. But I still remember when, back in the day, him and Shane were big into Hank Williams Jr. They had all of his cassette tapes. and they were big Chevy. You know, Chevy was like the truck that, you know, the brand of the truck you wanted.
Right.
And they were making up names for all of the different, or with what would go with each letter. You know, like Ford was fix or repair daily, but for Chevy, and I wonder if you ask him if he remembers what Chevy means. I don't know if he'll remember, but I've always remembered him. And it was, so Chevy, cool, hot, excellent, vivacious, yeah. I remember that, and I don't know if he does or not, because I remember that vivacious was such an amazing word.
Well, he will hear this, so hopefully that'll spark his memory, because, I mean, that is a really random thing to remember.
It was, and it's just something
That's funny.
I remember.
I think I would be an awful attorney, but I also love a good debate. And if I'm passionate about something, I will try very, very hard to convince someone else as to why they should feel the way I feel. And I've always been told because of that, they're like, oh, you should be an attorney. I'm surprised you never became a lawyer. Did he have that quality?
I'm sure that he did, and that's how they got their ways. I do. I sold a house next to a junkyard, so I tell everyone I can sell anything.
So ego runs in the family is what you're telling me.
Oh, yes, it does. Why do you think I said you should FaceTime me? Because I know I would win it.
That's true. You do have an impeccable way of explaining things.
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, unfortunately, we got to hop off here. It was great talking to you.
It was great to talk to you, and I look forward to hearing everything and how all the conversations.
Absolutely, you're like I said, you're the first of many, but this is going to be really interesting to say the least.
One, and probably the most, like you say, no couth. No one else is going to talk about poop. Maybe Shane, he might talk about farting, but yeah, no one else will probably talk about that.
I'll be sure to bring it up just for you. Hey, Ernie, it's PJ.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good, good.
I have two questions that are the same questions I'm going to ask everybody. Then the rest are just off the wall. But the first one is, give me a 60 to 90 second summary of who you are.
Born and raised in Central Ohio, as you and the listeners probably know by now. Went to Fredericktown High School, graduated from there in 1988. Moved to Columbus, Ohio. Started school at the DeVry Institute of Technology, which we like to refer to as the Institute. Was only there about 2 years, decided engineering wasn't for me when I was acing every class except the engineering classes. So transferred then to the official, now the Ohio State University.
Okay.
And got into psychology and got my Bachelor of Arts in psychology.
Oh, okay.
Simultaneous to finishing up my degree in psychology at Ohio State, took final year senior spring break, Daytona Beach, Florida, 93. Met my now wife, Dawn, on spring break. And she lived in Indianapolis. About 6 months after spring break and 3 or 4 months after graduation, I moved to Indianapolis and have now been an Indiana resident longer than I've been an Ohio resident.
I was going to say, so did you get your degree in psychology?
Yes, I did. And I really have never had a position where that was my focus. So I did not look... I did not really look to go on any further with any sort of master's or advanced degrees in that field.
Right.
Went right into the workforce, started out with a marketing company, and that was the time of credit card applications on college campuses. The old come over here and get your free T-shirt, fill out a Discover card application,
right?
Sort of a sales pitch. After a couple years working for that company, I decided to leave and start my own company doing the same thing. Was fortunate enough to take a good chunk of the sales reps and the clients with me. And I had a good 10-year run from 98 until the 2008 financial crisis in that business. Almost strictly in the college market, and at my peak, I was my company was the number 2 credit card application producer in the country in college market.
Wow! So you did use your psychology degree. You convinced a whole bunch of other students why they need to accumulate tons of debt.
Exactly. Yes.
That's why you had to move from Ohio to Indiana, because you have I think you have a hit out on you somewhere.
I had to stay on the move. Exactly. Yes.
The big question here is, will you have me convinced to get a credit card by the time that this is all over with and said and done? We'll see what happens.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to jump right into it and ask you the first completely ridiculous question. But do you believe in Bigfoot and aliens? Why or why not?
I'm going to go yes on aliens for sure. It's just hard to imagine, as expansive as the universe is, that we're out here completely alone on one planet in one solar system in the galaxy.
Right.
Our government's been more forthcoming over the last couple months, specific to some strange sightings that they weren't able to identify that they made public. So
yeah, I've noticed
I
that
would
too.
say I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything crazy like that, but if I had to venture a guess, I would guess that God probably stuck some human type of life forms on other planets besides Earth.
Right. Speaking of the whole thing with the government and UFOs, I have found it a bit bizarre that it's just almost out of the blue. Suddenly, the Navy and they're all wanting to talk about, like, hey, we've seen these things. Now they're openly admitting it and wanting to do investigations and stuff on it after denying it for so long.
Exactly.
So how would you describe the color yellow to someone who is blind?
I'd start with bright, but that probably wouldn't help a lot because they can't would likely not see that either. So maybe like a heat or a warmth, a good light bulb, and running their hand close to that. I think that's maybe the best thing to come up with is comparing it to a low level of heat compared to a high level of heat, which maybe would be a red or an orange or something like that.
Right now, Travis is standing at the door staring at me with a big smile on his face.
You in like the conference room with the door closed?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh, he's coming in now.
Okay. I thought maybe it was like a Dwight and Michael on The Office sort of thing. The door's closed and one's in there and one's watching the other one.
Right. Well, I'm going to pretend I'm Michael and he's Dwight.
I was just going to say, let's make him Dwight.
Perfect.
As far as that color yellow real quick and the blindness, one thing I've always thought of is sometimes when I say the word green or red, I mean the other. And I've often wondered about, as we see colors, ones that aren't actually diagnosed as colorblind, but what if I see the color blue as you see it, as you see green, and vice versa?
That's true.
I think you see some of those things on the internet now.
Yeah, I've had those conversations before where it's like, when I taste macaroni and cheese, does it taste the same as when you taste macaroni and cheese? Like, we both may love it, but
right.
Does it taste the same to me, that the same way it tastes to you? Oh, are you red-green deficient?
I don't think so. I just think that there's something with my brain that sometimes I will almost say the wrong word.
So it's like almost like a bizarre dyslexia of sorts. Yeah. There's probably a more accurate term for it, but unfortunately I am not a geologist. So
right. And people did think that I was weird when I'd fill out a credit card application. I'd start on the right side of the page, and I could never figure that out.
I know what you're doing here. You're using that psychology degree. You're trying to be subliminal about it without being very subliminal about it.
Right.
What is one thing you would change about yourself and why?
Boy.
I like to ask the hard questions.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe before I started listening to the podcast that Travis ever addressed it, but there is such a thing as a whole three nose. And it's based on, I don't know, probably width more than anything.
Right.
That's the first or second thing I look at when I see a photograph of myself. The other is that I tend to stick my stomach out in pictures. So I would say one of those two things, the ability to suck in and stand up straight, or that poultry nose just shaving a little bit off of each side. What
is the name of your debut album, if you had one?
That's funny because when back in the drinking days of college, my roommates and I would play like, what do you want to be when you grow up, or if you had enough money in the world, what would you want to do?
Right.
And I went with Make It Big on the Road. So if I made it big on the road, what would my debut album be? Highs and Lows of an Addictive Personality.
And what else is funny too, that when you say make it big on the road, a lot of people, they would equate that to being like a roadie or a musician or something like that. But at the same time, you could also be like the country's best vacuum cleaner salesman. Or you could be a door-to-door credit cardsman.
That's right, and have like a closing rate of like 94%. Right.
Yes. Is cereal a soup?
I'm going to say no, because you have to add something to it, and the soups nowadays, like the chunky and stuff, you just open it and dump it in. So I'm gonna go no on that one.
That's kind of like that is a hot dog a sandwich question.
Right. I would go yes on that one, probably because of the likelihood that you're putting it on a bun. And
That's true.
Even on times when I eat a hamburger without a bun, I still would probably call it a sandwich. So, yeah.
Well, I know that a lot of people say no, and that's because the bun is connected, whereas like a burger or a sandwich, the bread is not connected. Which I guess technically the bread is connected until you cut it and slice it. So you could slice a hot dog bun, and then then that's the only difference, right? So
exactly right.
Well, at least I didn't ask you if a hot dog could be soup, so it could be a lot worse.
Although hot dog water could make a good base for a soup, couldn't it?
It could. All right, so we're down to our last question. This is one of the
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, oh no, you know what? I skipped one. And it's another ridiculous question. So I'm going to ask it before I ask the other question because the other question's a little more serious. So what would you rather have to deal with? Have no nose but have really good smelling fingers, or be blind but have a really nice smile?
Blind, nice smile, or nose and what?
Really good smelling fingers.
I'll have to go with the no nose for the reasons I mentioned before. And good smelling fingers. Had to deal with bad smelling fingers, and you couldn't tell how bad they smelled. That could be a bad
That's
thing.
True.
But yeah, the blind smile thing. No, I'll go with the nose.
Well, that's kind of a vanity question too, which I find interesting because most people I think would want to go with the blind versus not having a nose because but then again, you're not a big fan of your nose, so if your nose was gone you may not care too much.
I just lump it right off. So, yeah.
I'm sure you could do a nose transplant, or there's always a surgery.
Well, I mean, one of the cousins said, who's going to ever want to listen to this kind of stuff? And I said, hey, you never know, people listen to strange things. We could be the next Kardashians. So then it became, whose plastic surgery is Travis going to pay for? So just stick me on that list. Yeah.
Well, if he pays for anybody's plastic surgery, it better be mine. And it's going to be liposuction, so I don't look pregnant anymore. Just throwing that out there.
I thought maybe it was a skin graft for the hands because of the finger smell or something.
No. Oh, are you see, you're using your psychology now. You think I may have smelly fingers, and that's why I asked you about that. I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
All right, so final question. What is your favorite memory about Grandma's house?
Well, everybody's probably going to say wiffle ball and hanging out together all day long, but I'm going to still have to say that. Even the highs and lows and the getting into arguments and then getting out of arguments and back into arguments and then going in to eat and then back outside to play and all of those things probably. Don't have a lot of memories of my grandpa. I think he died when Travis and Darren and I were in 7th grade.
Right.
But Grandma and through pain and through trials and mental and physical ailments both, the hard work ethic and just knowing that she had raised that in all of our dads and it was being passed on to us and it was modeled and not a do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Do as I do. So probably just the time spent together as cousins at Grandma's. And then I also probably have one that's a little more unique than only my sister. My mom worked every other Sunday. So on the Sunday that my mom worked after church, my dad would take us to Grandma's for lunch. And then the other Sundays we went to the other Grandma's when my mom wasn't working. So that was from the time I can remember until high school tradition that was, 20 to 25 Sundays a year at Grandma's for Sunday dinner. And
right.
And raving about her homemade mashed potatoes, which we watched her make out of a box, but they were still so good. So, and she always had at least 2 flavors of ice cream for us to choose from after.
Oh, that's good. What were the flavors?
Usually a ripple, a chocolate ripple, or a strawberry ripple, and then a plainer one, probably like a vanilla strawberry or chocolate.
Travis just popped around the corner, and I had a point to make, and he just—that's what he does. He just pops up out of nowhere, and he distracts you.
You know that at some point in time, if it's time for like your yearly review or a raise or something like that, if you need a little fodder for for maybe some
Okay.
Covert blackmail. You have
Right.
probably 6 sources, and we could probably keep it where just it was on the borderline of legal and illegal. So we wouldn't get him in too much trouble, but it might get to that, that 10% bump that you're looking for
Right.
at some point in time.
I might take you up on that, because now that I have your all's phone numbers, I too can start my own like cousins hotline.
That's right.
And then we can just specifically talk about Travis.
If we do that, let's do Signal, and then Signal can't be traced back.
Perfect.
Edward Snowden came up to that, so we can do a cousins hotline and just swap you out for Travis and do it on Signal.
Perfect. I like how you're covering your tracks already.
That's right. Ahead of time. Exactly.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and let me ask you really, really stupid things.
Highly important, too. Are you getting most of us covered this week on the interviews, or pushing them over a couple weeks? Or
Well, I've got 4 of you today, so you're the second one.
Okay.
Cheyenne, I literally had just gotten off the phone with her before I had to run to the restroom. I tried my best to make it sound like I was going to be right back, because I didn't want you to think it was going to be a number 2 situation. You're going to like.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm putting in the cousins group chat right now that Cheyenne gave PJ diarrhea with her interview. So, yeah.
Well, we talked enough about her Crohn's that it is very possible. So.
Okay. We'll stop there.
Yeah, she was very she's like me. I'm sure you've noticed this. I have the page that has couth in the dictionary pretty much got ripped out when I was young. So I pretty much will say about anything, which is kind of sad and scary. But she seemed to be this is very similar. So
one more thing, one that Travis definitely got wrong on guessing the cousins' political affiliations. I worked for a Republican governor and a lieutenant governor, but I did not cast my ballot for Trump either time.
Oh, okay.
Not that I maybe wouldn't have if it would have been Rubio or Cruz or Jeb Bush, but he did not get my vote either time. So I'll go on record with that. But the Indiana Republican Party, as long as I work there and they do the things that they do now, will always get my vote.
Well, you heard it here first by hearing it secondly, but from the source. So, all right. Well, hey, it was good talking to you.
All right, this
Cool.
has been fun. Tell Dwight that I said hi.
I absolutely will. You take care.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, folks. 2 interviews in the can. Next week, we're going to be talking to 2 more of Travis's cousins, finding out who they are, what makes them tick. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty, like we got down to the knit and the grit today. But we're going to do it again next week. Of course, as always, this is Law Lite Podcast. You can check out our previous episodes, over 145 of them up to this point, on all different platforms of social media. You can check us out there. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and of course on YouTube. No one seems to really be checking us out on YouTube, but you should. You should go on there and check it out. And yeah, so until next time, I'm PJ Starks, co-host, pretending to be host, talking to Travis's cousins. Check out fwhlegal.com if you want quality legal something. It's been a long day, but if you need quality legal service, we're going to get it to you. Until next time, thanks.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!